Welcome back to my channel. In another video, Calcutta University 6th Semester New Literatures in English second module second chapter Australia by A.D. Hopper question answers ആണ്. So നമുക്ക് question answersലേക്ക് കടക്കാം. Answer the following questions in a sentence or two. 1. Which is the nation referred to in the first line of the poem? The nation referred to in the first line of the poem is Australia. 2. Explain the her in the expression darkens her hills and comment upon the poetic device used. Her here means Australia's. The poetic device used here is personification. Personification is the speaking of inanimate objects, animals, birds, etc. as if they are human beings and they behave like them. 3. Why is it said the country is without songs, architecture and history? Australia was a barren land when British made it their colony. It was used as a place to exile big criminals there as they would not escape from there as Australia is surrounded by the seas. It had no government, no building, no literature and no history. All these came later. 4. Why does hope mean by 5 teeming souls? By the 5 teeming souls, hope means the 5 big cities of Australia: Melbourne, Sydney, Canberra, Perth and Adelaide. 5. What is called civilization according to the poet? According to the poet, civilization means the country has a culture, history, architecture and literature and intellectuals to lead the people on the right paths of progress. 6. What does the poet mean by the expression the Arabian desert of human mind? By the expression the Arabian desert of human mind, the poet means that the people in Australia at that time were not using their minds productively. Their mind was as barren and infertile like the Arabian deserts. 7. What is implied by the phrase second-hand Europeans? Australia was a country into which England exiled its big criminals. Then later, stories spread about the vast lands of Australia and many people from different countries of Europe, especially the poor ones, rushed there hoping to find better life. Thus, the Australians of those times were the dracony of these criminals and fortune seekers, and that is why they are called second-hand Europeans. 8. What is meant by the chatter of cultured apes? The Australians are compared to the apes and their chatter. Apes are large primates that have no tail, including the gorilla, chimpanzees, orangutan and gibbons. As the settlers came from different countries speaking different languages, their talks were like the chatter of apes. 9. Why does the poet say they call her a young country but they live? The poet says they call her a young country but they lie. Because Australia is not a new country, it was there even before the settlers came there. It had its aboriginal people who had been living there for centuries. So calling it a young country is a lie. It is as old as any other country. Answering paragraph 1. Why does hope refer to Australia as both old and new? Hope refers to Australia as both old and new because it is old in some sense but new in some other sense. The first 5 stanzas of the poem, the poet talks extensively about Australia. He described how it is both a new and old country. Geographically, it is an old country like any other country in the world. It had its aboriginal people who had been living there for centuries. But politically, the country is new. Now it has a government, architecture, literature and history. There are big cities now. It is both a European colony and an independent but a parasitical country. The poet talks about the wildness of Australia also. He describes Australia as a country that is bleak and almost colorless and dull. This is very much resembles the field uniform of modern walls, where everything is in shade of grey and green. 2. The relevance of Sphinx imagery in Hope's poem. In Greek mythology, the Sphinx has the head of a woman, the body of a lion, and the wings of a bird. She is considered to be treacherous and merciless and kills and eats those who cannot answer her riddle. The riddle is this: what is the creature that walks on 4 in the morning, 2 in the noon, and 3 in the evening? She would ask this riddle to any person she met, and if he could not answer it, she would devour him. The people of Thebes were terribly afraid of this Sphinx, which could be threat any of the people there. Oedipus comes to Thebes and the Sphinx asks him the riddle. He answers it correctly. The creator is man. Man walks on four when he is a child, on two legs when he is young, and on three when he is old, as he uses a stick to walk. The Sphinx feels defeated and she goes and jumps from a mountain nearby. Thus, the people of Thebes are saved. In gratitude, they crown Oedipus as their king, as Laius, their king, was recently killed. Australia, to many people, proved to be the Sphinx which guided them as they were struggling to build their life in the new land. 3. The image of Baroness in the poem Australia. In this famous poem, Australia, A.D. Hope, the poet, portrays Australia as a nation of trees, drab green and desolate grey that darkens the hills. Here, Australia is presented as a bleak and colorless nation because everything in it is dull and without any color. This deterioration resembles the field uniform of modern wars, where almost all objects are in the shadows of Sphinx. In Greek mythology, the Sphinx has the head of a woman, the body of a lion, and the wings of a bird. She is considered to be treacherous and merciless, and kill and eats those who cannot answer her riddle. Then we see Hope saying that Australia is a country without song, architecture, and history. She lacks the emotions and superstitions of younger lands. Her rivers of water drown among inland sands. The river is full of stupidity as it doesn't nourish anything. 4. Comment on the narrative style of Australia. The poem Australia by A.D. Hope is highly critical of the land and people of Australia. The first 5 stanzas of the poem deal with Australia's physical attributes. He said that the landscape of Australia is mechanical and monotonous, comparing it to the camouflage uniform of soldiers of war. In the very first stanza, this simile conveys the drabness of the expanding trees through the desolate grey color which seem dull while they stand in desolate expansive land. The poem reflects the absence of individualism and spiritual growth. According to the author, the coordinator reflects an ambiguous state. They didn't care about the inner self or heart. The author compares this to the mythological Sphinx. The poem has 28 lines consisting of 7 stanzas. The poem is in rhyme and the scheme is ABBA. The poet has used personification and hyperbole to stress his ideas. Its language is simple and straightforward, but the static element is very visible. Answer in 300 words. What is the attitude of the poet towards his country in Australia? In his poem Australia, the poet A.D. Hope is highly critical of the country and the people. He portrays Australia as a nation of trees, drab green and desolate grey that darkens the hills. Here Australia is presented as a blank and colorless nation because everything in it is dull and without any color. This deterioration resembles the field uniform of modern wars, where almost all objects are in shadow of Sphinx. In Greek mythology, the Sphinx has the head of a woman, the body of a lion, and the wings of a bird. She is considered to be treacherous and merciless, and kill and eat those who cannot answer her riddle. Then we see Hope saying that Australia is a country without song, architecture, and history. She lacks the emotions and superstitions of younger lands. Her rivers of water drown among the inland sands. The river is full of stupidity as it doesn't nourish anything. It's a picture of desolation and barrenness. Hope severely criticizes the people of Australia. He says that the people in Australia are not using their minds for productivity. Their mind was as barren and infertile like the Arabian deserts. Australia was a country into which England exiled its big criminals. Then later, stories spread about the vast lands of Australia, and many people from different countries of Europe, especially the poor ones, rushed there, hoping to find a better life. Thus, the Australians of those times were the progeny of these criminals and fortune seekers, and that's why they are called second-hand Europeans. The Australians are compared to the apes and their chatter. Apes are large primates that have no tail, and they induced the gorilla, chimpanzee, orangutan, and gibbon. As settlers came from different countries speaking different languages, their talks were like the chatter of apes. 2. Comment on various poetic devices used by A.D. Hope in Australia. In his poem Australia, A.D. Hope has used many poetic devices to make it an interesting poem. The poem has 28 lines divided into 7 stanzas. The poem is in rhyme and the rhyming scheme is ABAB. There are some beautiful comparisons in the poem. The poet describes Australia as a nation of trees, drab, green and desolate, grey that darkens her hills. He sees Australia as a country that is bleak and almost colorless and dull. This is very much resembles the feed uniform of modern wards where everything is in shades of grey and green. The poet likens the country to a sphinx. The sphinx was a figure from Egyptian myth which possessed the body of lion, head of human being and wings of bird. She is thought to be treacherous and merciless and will kill and eat those who can't answer her riddle. This comparison could be directly related to the author's vision of Australia. The 5 cities of Australia are compared to 5 dreaming stars. These cities are Melbourne, Sydney, Canberra, Perth and Adelaide. They are swords because they are crowded, 50 lawless and crime ridden. There is no beauty in those cities where people struggle to survive. People don't live there but somehow just there is a lot of personification. Australia is a woman beyond her change of life. Her breast is still tender but her womb is dry. There is a hyperbola in the poem. The poet says that country is without song, without architecture and without history. This is high exaggeration as the country had its songs, its architecture and its history may be the aboriginals. The poem severely criticizes the land and people of Australia. He reminds the people that they are the descendants of exiled criminals and fortune seekers. To them, the talk of settlers who came to Australia from different European countries sounds like the chatter of apes, which consist of tailless monkeys like gorilla, chimpanzee, orangutan, and gibbon. In short, they are clumsy persons and not intelligent ones who are ready to work hard and make progress. So, that's all about the questions and answers in chapter Australia by A.D. Hope. Hope you understood well. Thank you.